Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
No, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border. And then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on America's soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, everyone. I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate that. I see you rolling into the chat. We're about to have ourselves a little show. So thanks for tuning in to the fourth program now on today's network, the Bond Network, the Jesse Lee Peterson Network. So that's cool, huh? Tuesday, we're here Tuesday, 12:11 p.m., the American Anchor Baby. We're gonna get going in. We're gonna get going. We're wiping down the equipment as it smells like cocoa butter and cologne, as someone says. Someone said Joel left it smelling like that. I don't know how you know how Joel smells like, but right on. Welcome everybody. As you on your way in, show some manners, show some decency. And leave a little like as you come in. Or at least be decent. You know, you say hello. What? You don't say hello no more? What? You don't say hi no more? At least say hi. You're in the you just walk into a home and you see a bunch of people. You just stand there. Chat away in the chat as it helps. Engage away. I know some of you like to support monetarily, and you know not always you can't always do that. That's not a big deal. You can leave a like, chat away, leave a comment on the video afterwards. Or you can just pop into the Rumble party as I see y'all over there. What's up, Rumble? Rumble.com/American Anchor Baby. What's up, TJ Hilliard, Ohio Sentinel. Mildew Grew, Being Enlightened Till I Rise. What's up? Hi, y'all. What it do, homebrew? Welcome. Thank you. So do that. Like, subscribe, do your thing. And, of course, you can call 888-775-3773. You can jump on the line, get on hold. I will get to all the calls. Thanks to everyone who were dropping little super chats yesterday at the end of the show. We never did get into the Nazis. We're going to jump right into it, okay? We're going to jump into it, what we didn't get into yesterday. They have literal Nazis. So we'll do that. But thank you, Sugar Pancake Face, for the Coca-Cola Fund. You are aware of my love for Coca-Cola. It's a high-level drink. Harmony with the super chat to fix your Wi-Fi. I think you may have done just that, Harmony. Thank you for your super chat. So we've been rolling, we've been rocking, rolling on the road, doing our thing here on the show just fine so far. Looking good. Looking over to my engineer here, Bill, giving me the spiritual thumbs up. I think we're good. We're going to keep going. So thank you for that. Carver, Birdie Bound, Brian, Sion, all your super chats, thank you. In Canada, Coke comes in a bag. In Canada, you get your milk in a bag. You don't get your Coca-Cola in a bag. But that's like a European thing. Don't you get your milk in a bag in Europe? Some places. Yeah, we did the bags in Canada. See, you're in a Canadian household. You gotta have the household milk jug. Because how are you going to operate in life? Every household must have the milk pitcher, the milk jug. Because where are you going to put your milk once you buy that? Oh, we're going to need Lil Nick for this one. Hey, Lil Nick, can you help us out for this one? Hey, what's up, man? There you are. Okay, where are you going to put your milk? Every household has this. The pitcher. You see this picture? I'm showing, for those listening, I'm showing the folks at home this picture of a plastic pitcher that you get at a Dollarama. You got to pop into a Dollarama. I never saw anyone with a fancy milk jug, an ornamental milk jug, artifact passed down in the family. I never saw something like that in Canada. Any Canadians in the chat? Did anyone have like an heirloom version of this? Because I never saw it. Even in the widest of homes, everyone had the Dollarama milk jug. And that's where you put... I mean, if you don't have a milk jug at home, it's like, do you even have toilet paper? Like, are you okay? Do you need government assistance? Just a little bit. Lil Nick about to drink a gigantic pitcher of milk. I would, too. People laugh at me. I still have milk with some meals. What are you, 5? But that's how almost. How do you think I became such a strong boy and continue to be one? Strong boy. Emphasis on boy. Jeez. Is this for serious? You didn't know this? This is not a joke. This is how you live in Canada. Look, do you need me to go? Do you need me to? These are other milk jugs. Okay, there you go. See, look. You got to get look. You think I'm playing around? You need me to keep going? Okay, these are just other images. You need me to, look, you need me to keep going? The Dollarama jug. Where you might encounter a woman fighting you after stealing things, after being a thief and stealing things. You might have seen this clip on the Hake Report today. Great episode. And I too am a milk enjoyer. Life enjoyer in the chat says I too am a milk enjoyer. Well, with a name like that, I'm not surprised. Life enjoyer. Yeah, anybody in the chat? I'm going to scroll up a bit. Bear with me. I want to see if any Canadians had an heirloom milk jug. Nah, exactly. This is a milk conspiracy. See, I was an immigrant in Canada, so I was culture shocked by the milk jugs. I'm like, where are the gallons? Where are the gallons? Where's the handle? Where I want to be able to open the fridge and just go swig straight from the fridge when no one's looking. It was a little harder with the milk bags. Oh, but I still did it. You got to get the pour going. And you bite it off too. If you're a real degenerate, you don't cut the bag. You bite it off like an animal. And then the stream of milk comes out all funny, and you never fix it. Shout out to the swiggers. We got swiggers in the chat. Man, all this Canada talk. Canada's in the news a little bit, not too important, but kind of silly. But it's got me thinking about a number of things today, as I've been doing lately since I've been all like intellectual, reading my World War II books, and I'm all like stuffy and like, yes. So it's just so pedestrian to think that Germany was the solely responsible for World War I. I mean, yes, just absolutely ridiculous. The World War I revisionists really did their work. And so some of this Canada talk has got me. It's all working together. It's all fitting. It's all a tapestry of insanity in my mind, which I will present to you today. Canada House speakers apologizing for honoring actual Nazis in the Canadian House of Commons, the House of Commons. Imagine that like a House of Representatives, okay? The House. Sorry, I'm distracted by the chat. Swiggers with attitude. You know it. Nick gets his milk from the fridge. We need to invade Canada. Thank you. Someone with some sense in the chat. And you're going to agree with me at the end of this. You're going to agree with me. So here's the mess. Here's a little bit of the story. Because there's a man, a 98-year-old man, Yaroslav Hunka. Yaroslav Hunka. He was honored in the House of Commons during a visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Okay? Let me get you some media here. Yaroslav Hunka. Anyways, so Zelensky's over there, right? And on for basically Friday, during a session of Parliament, Zelensky addressed the lawmakers. Okay, he was there in Canada. He's doing a little bit of a tour right now. There's a couple people on a world tour. Benjamin Netanyahu, Zelensky. Okay, big moves in the grand chess game. But okay, they're in the Parliament. Zelensky's there. He's thanking them for their support for the whole Russia invasion thing. And saying things, saying all the things, right? He's there telling the Canadians, you guys are on the right side of history. And they saluted and had a standing ovation for a war veteran who fought for Ukrainians independence from Russia during World War II. Okay, one of the great wars here. And so that was the moment, right? They were in Parliament doing the big old standing ovation for this guy. And you guys all know probably by now from the headlines that this guy was a literal Nazi, okay? They're saying he was part of SS Waffen and this or that division. And, you know, people are kind of jumping on I could almost call it a conservative bandwagon here a little bit. People are jumping on, say, look.
His speech received at least a dozen standing ovations.
Not surprising. People jumping on saying, yeah, I'll tell you what they're saying in a second here. I'm trying to show you this video here. Oh, come on, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is making it difficult to show you this video. Elon Musk himself.
Zelensky's speech received at least a dozen.
Let's watch this video, huh?
Dozen standing ovations. There was also one for this man, a 98-year-old Ukrainian Canadian who fought for Ukrainian independence against the Russians during the Second World War. Zelensky's speech received at least a dozen standing ovations.
Oh, that's the whole thing. Okay, so that's the standing ovation, and of course they're getting a bunch of bad press. In fact, they've apologized. They've apologized for this whole thing. So according to the AP, Associated Press, this Hunka individual fought with the 1st Ukrainian Division of World War II before later immigrating to Canada. And there's all this reporting on this man's particular division. Okay, they're saying part of the Nazis, he's part of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS, which is the Nazis' military wing. Also known as the SS Galiciana. Formed in 1943, SS Galiciana was comprised of Ukrainians from the Galicia region in the western part of the country. It was armed and trained by Hitler's Nazis and commanded by German officers. So he fought with actual Nazis, the Nazis. The next year, the division received a visit from SS head Heinrich Himmler. And they say, at least Zero Hedge and these different reports are talking about this SS Galiciana's, this unit's part in the killing of Poles, for example, in the war. Okay, so they're saying war crimes. He was running from war crimes, ended up in Canada, and that's a little bit of the story behind Yaroslav Hunka. Yaroslav Hunka. And so, okay, let me show you some of the conservatives here. They're saying, where's the ADL, huh? Where's the ADL on this one, huh? Huh, ADL? So all of a sudden, silence. Where's crickets from the ADL? Why aren't you out here calling people anti-Semites? Don't worry, we'll do that for you. We're going to do, don't worry, ADL. We'll do that for you, says these conservatives, some of these. Well, there's this one guy, Ezra Levant, and I like Ezra. They do, him and Rebel News do great work in Canada. They're pretty much like the only alternative, dissident, conservative media company in Canada, at least as far as I remember, before I left. And I still think to today, because it's government media up there, if you don't know. You got the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company. And you have like independent newspapers, the Toronto Sun and all that. But nothing like Rebel News, Rebel Media. Ezra Levant, journalist, publisher of Rebel News. Okay, he's a pretty solid Rebel News. They do, you know, they seem to be doing a lot of what you might see Project Veritas or what Project Veritas used to do. Tucker, Fox, but like the cool people in Fox that used to be in Fox. You see them kind of doing it up there in Canada, but with like no fanfare. Like they're like yelling out it feels like that. It feels like they're up there doing the same thing, doing some hard-hitting news of stuff people aren't talking about, but it's like crickets, the audience. It's like there's just the wind. And them screaming into, but making it all that much more respectable, right? Because, anyways, it's just kind of how I see it. Ezra Levant here tweeting about this. What a roller coaster of a week it's been for Nazi officer Yaroslav Hunka. Okay, in fact, let me show you what I'm looking at. Yaroslav Hunka. For 70 years, he has lived a quiet life in a small town in Canada, trying not to be noticed by any Mossad Nazi hunters. Interesting. Based Ezra Levant calling out the Mossad Nazi hunters, headhunters, trying to find 90-plus-year-old men out just in Argentina or something, trying to just live out their life. In the twilight of his life, he was surely surprised to be contacted by the Canadian government, not to prosecute him, but to celebrate his life and call him a war hero. He went to Ottawa, brought his friends and family, and received a standing ovation from every MP in the room, member of parliament. That's an MP. His life was vindicated. He didn't have to be ashamed of being a Nazi anymore. His own prime minister was cheering for him. Adolf Hitler would be so proud. He's kind of adding to it. Ezra Levant kind of adding to it a little bit. But then someone told the truth about him, not the regime media, but independent journalists, including some Jews, he writes in italics with some emphasis. I think Ezra Levant is Jewish himself. And now Yaroslav Hunka has become the most famous Nazi in Canada. I'm glad that, at least for the last months of his life, he will endure some of the shame that is so richly his, unlike his victims who were murdered in the prime of their lives, says Ezra Levant. And he shares this photo of the Yaroslav. You know, I wonder how he knows that. That Yaroslav murdered people. Like, he may have. And all these reports, because people are wondering, well, maybe he didn't do anything. And so you got the in-depth reports out here talking about, well, he was SS. He was SS Waffen. Actually, he was SS Galicia. And SS Galicia or whatever has been praised for the murdering of Poles and is particularly evil and blah, blah, blah. So I may not know. I just wonder how he just knows. Ezra Levant. Okay, so what else was it about this? He said, at least for, some of the last few months of his life. Elijah Schaffer. Let me get this straight, he says. Zelensky is a Jew, and Trudeau condemns anti-Semitism, but they honored a SS Nazi war criminal on TV with a standing ovation because right-wing extremism is a threat to our democracies, but also a threat to Russia. So it's bad here, but good there? Fair questions, man. This brings up a lot of ideological conundrums here for the left in Canada and the world and supporters of this Ukrainian war. Now, all this was before the apologies, okay? And Canada has basically since apologized. The Canadian Speaker of the House Commons has issued an apology after he asked the entire parliament to give a standing ovation last week to 98-year-old Nazi Waffen SS soldier. In fact, I believe he's now resigning, the Speaker of the House, last I read. So, hold on. I just lost my place here. Anthony Rota issued the apology. And he puts out like this big old statement, this big apology. Trudeau also apologizing. Trudeau getting on the bandwagon here. You got to be sorry. That's a Nazi.
Obviously, it's extremely upsetting that this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians.
Deeply embarrassing. How does this even happen, though? Like, is this just a complete accident? They just pick, well, because he's a Ukrainian, right? Ukrainian-Canadian vet, so it fits. But did someone not do their homework here?
I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today.
He's got to shout out the Jews. He's like, hey, sorry to all the Jewish people. We personally offended you with this one. Sorry, y'all.
I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine as we did last week.
Wait, what? The Russians did this? Russian disinformation? Russian disinformation did this? Hold on.
Further measures to stand with Ukraine in Russia's illegal war against it.
Illegal war, he says, and that they will stand with Ukraine even harder. He says. Well, he didn't say that, but but they will be supporting. He says they will be supporting Ukraine against Russia's illegal war. Okay. I mean, he's not wrong, right? We're in the Wilsonite peace, quote unquote, world order put in place after the world wars, right? So he's not wrong. It is illegal, but in terms of international law, I don't know who made them gods of the world, but okay. But where was I? They're supporting Ukraine. Okay, interesting tidbit. We're going to get back to that. Further support for it. Okay, so they're honoring this Nazi. Now they're apologizing. And here's the thing for me. Let me just get to it. Is there any more reporting on this? Right, there were all this reporting on the atrocities. Okay, atrocities, they say. So let me continue here. Let me see. Any more reporting? Laura Loomer. You know, just people jumping on, okay? Jumping on, calling it anti-Semitic, okay? Brian Lilly, okay? Of the Toronto Sun. Remember when Justin Trudeau accused Conservative MP Melissa Lantsman, a Jewish woman whose family came to Canada from Ukraine, of standing with people who have swastikas? Now his government brought someone who fought in a Nazi unit, blah, 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 alluding to Trudeau's anti-Semitism, this conservative guy, Brian Lilly. You know, I see him on Rebel News or whatever. I guess he's a columnist for the Toronto Sun now. I feel like I used to see him on Rebel News. Brian Lilly, Rebel Media. Why conservative pundit Brian Lilly is parting ways with Rebel Media. Yeah, so this guy was, at least he was a tough guy. But, I mean, maybe this is as tough as they get up there, huh? Just going into the anti-Semitism thing here. See, Trudeau's an anti-Semite. Get him. Falling into it's a bit of a trap here. If you're seeing a little bit of the point I'm forming here, we're going to get to it though. He was an actual member, more than a link. Nazi-linked veteran, Political calls him. Conservatives in the comments of this Twitter post. It's more than a link. Okay, this guy's SS. But I wonder what people really understand about all that. SS. What does that mean? Like someone who's like. What about American commandos? What does that mean? Are those butchers? You know what I mean? Like, it's perspective. And I'm going to get to that. So, I'm ashamed to be a Canadian watching this, says Mutahar on Twitter, who's a popular guy on Twitter. I see his tweets every now and then. He says he's ashamed. I don't care how old or how long it's been, he writes. I don't care how old you are or how long it's been. If you fought for the Nazis, you need to get shot in the head, says this guy, Mutahar. I'm ashamed to be a Canadian. You might be an anchor baby. Someone get an IKEA swatch. We're going to need an IKEA swatch color test here. You might be an anchor baby. From Canada. I don't care how old you are, how long it's been. If you fought for the Nazis, you need to get shot in the head. Okay. So check this out. Are you guys following? Are you guys still in the chat? Right on. Okay, so check this out. Trudeau apologizing, da-da-da. So they're all apologizing. Here's the thing for me. Because what's being brought up here is these feuds that have been going on for a long time that we were just born into. We just kind of appeared in. And we're getting roped up into all of these feuds yet again in another amazing moment of history. Okay? And we're getting roped up into this or that battle in a bunch of different ways, in ways that we can't always pay attention to, because we have it in our minds that the fight is conservative versus liberal, Democrat versus Republican, right versus left, okay? We got these lines of demarcation that are kind of antiquated. And they're not accurate. Look, here's the point. So they're out here disavowing this guy, right? The Canadian government. They're out here disavowing him. But if they really meant it, okay, if you really meant it, that this guy's actually we disavow this guy. This is horrible. This is a criminal. Then prosecute him. Like, they're out here acting like they really mean it. Okay? Then go for it. Get him. Some people out here saying they should shoot him in the head. So what's holding you back? Oh, he's just too old. He's too old, and it's just out of compassion or whatever. Well, then I guess this little vendetta isn't that important then. This little vendetta the government has, or even individuals, about Nazi this or whatever, this little vendetta maybe is not that important to you. Maybe you don't really care. And this whole thing is just for show. A little save face for show. You see what I'm saying here? If they meant it, then go for it. Then get him, kill him. If you're so tough. If you mean it so much, right? And then turn around and try and justify to me and explain to me, after you kill this man, I want you to turn around and explain to me and justify to me what about him was particularly evil and particularly special in its evil, unique in its evil, that you thought it was justified to do that. Okay? Because there's a lack of understanding. It's clear to me in watching this a little bit. And like I was saying earlier, I'm all academic and feeling all smart lately with these World War II books or whatever. But they're sharing these videos, okay? They're sharing these videos of when the Nazis were marching, German Nazis marching in Ukraine, and wondering, I wonder if Yaroslav is in this crowd here, huh? I wonder if you can recognize Yaroslav as the Ukrainians here are holding up SS and different things. They're holding up different things, welcoming the Nazis. See, look at these Nazi sympathizers. Ukrainians are a bunch of Nazis. So they're sharing these videos, right? Amazing footage. Amazing music. I actually haven't seen this all the way through. But they're sharing these videos, okay? And let me turn this down a little bit. Do some live B-roll. Ooh, I just transformed this into B-roll. I mean, they're showing you these videos, right? But you got to understand something. You got to understand, like, for example, did you know nationalism, that whole concept, the whole concept of a people, banding together and deciding our identity as a people, our common identity is what makes us a nation, a country with borders, a government, and everything. That whole concept, it really wasn't. I think some of you might be surprised at how it even came about. Okay? And I'm going to tie it together here. They're playing you these videos showing you that these are these hateful people for combining with the Nazis or affiliating with them in any way. But you got to understand that Russia at this time wasn't the same Russia that it was 300 years prior. Because prior to this point in the world, Russia was of the Romanovs. The House of Romanov ruled Russia for 300 years. The Russia of the Romanovs was no more at that point. After World War I and different revolutions, civil wars, all sorts of crazy stuff happened. And by the way, all this stuff was happening. Russia didn't fall apart and there was just anarchy and it was just everyone for themselves. People were still paying their bills and living their lives, worrying about Sarah at work. She's being such a... Anyways. Maybe not Sarah, maybe Mike or something. or Mikhail. How about that? Maybe a little bit more accurate. But the Russia of the Romanovs was gone. And at its place at the top, sitting atop the largest nation in the world, sat what now people in history call the butchers of Russia, the Bolsheviks. These butchers, these communist butchers now led this nation, this country. I don't know if you'd call it a nation, as it was very diverse, Russia. Okay, back to what I'm saying here, though. At this time, when they're showing you these videos, at this time, Russia was no longer the Russia it used to be. It was led by the Bolsheviks, as we now know. History knows them as very, bloodthirsty order, regime. Do you know the word Holodomor? The Holodomor, also known as the Great Ukrainian Famine, a man-made famine in Soviet Ukraine from 1932 to 1933 that killed millions of Ukrainians. Millions of Ukrainians. The Bolsheviks were Jews, says Taking Care of Business Bear. Bolsheviks, the Holodomor, the Great Ukrainian Famine. Who fought against the Russians? The Nazis. Can you understand a little bit here? It's not just as simple as my side good. Well, people believe this in their minds. My side good, your side bad. But here, us outsiders, it's not that simple for us. It shouldn't be. As simple as just taking a side. That's the good guy. That's the bad guy. Like a comic book. Okay? So, the Bolsheviks came in. Great Ukrainian famine, millions dead. And you got the Nazis coming in like heroes, liberators, liberating Ukraine. You see what's going on here? So it's not as simple as people today want to make it. But this was all inside the country, and we are not... What do you mean, Vlad? Alpha male in the chat? Hey, I know I have a Russian friend here in the chat. Let me know if I'm totally off base with anything I'm saying here, sir. 888-775-3773 should you want to correct me on anything I'm saying here. I disavowed the Holodomor talk. NYT told me they're hungry, not starving. Oh, is that true? I'm reading Wikipedia. This is a Wikipedia article. Great Ukrainian famine. Millions dead. This is Wikipedia. So anyways, thank you to my Russian friend in the chat. I did get into silly books, deep alpha male in the chat. They're silly. We're going to bring it back home. Allow me to get into my stuff. This is what I'm interested in. We're going to bring it back home, though, in a moment here for all those who are still listening. Thank you. But where was I? Holodomor. You got to understand. Those are liberators to them. You see what I'm saying? The Bolsheviks. Okay. The Bolsheviks. And they talk about atrocities. The atrocities. Okay. You could go to here's another Wikipedia article for you. I was just telling you I'm reading a Wikipedia here. In fact, here's another one for you. Atrocity propaganda. Here's a little Wikipedia article for you. For your education. Atrocity propaganda. You could just Google this. Okay? Atrocity propaganda is the spreading of information about the crimes committed by an enemy, which can be factual, but often includes or features deliberate fabrications or exaggerations. They can involve photographs, videos, illustrations, interviews, and other forms of information presentation or reporting. And in fact, one of the entries in this Wikipedia article is a very famous instance of atrocity propaganda, which has been widely reported on, spoken about at length by Patrick Buchanan in this fancy little book I'm reading, Unnecessary War. And it was about this propaganda promulgated by the British to the Americans and the world about German atrocities of holding babies and skewering them on bayonets and other sorts of horrible atrocities, which came to be found to be total lies. Lies to galvanize and incense the American public into joining that war. As some historians, H.E. Lawrence or whatever, I might be getting the letters wrong there. Such a great reporter I am here, geez. He would write about that as describing it as a way of getting Americans incensed to pull Great Britain's chestnuts out of the fire and save them. Don't say promulgated. Is that a bad word, or am I using it wrong? So what's the point here? Atrocity propaganda. Because they're telling you about this guy and all these atrocities. And I'm reading these accounts and diaries of men in the 1930s and children growing up in the 40s and on this time overhearing stuff about how American men felt hoodwinked by the British. A general souring of attitudes towards them began after the Allies brought home their victory treaties. And the Brits, using all that propaganda, they felt hoodwinked. There's a bitterness, so at least some historians write about. I wasn't there. Anybody hear anything about that? Growing up, maybe. And so all this like woke stuff that you kind of you hear conservatives people that you hear me rail about. Let's be honest, signal booster and a yelling hot air person I am. Let's be real. But maybe you enjoy the show a little bit. Thank you. You know, all the stuff we rail about, it comes from that time. The world that the Allies made through conquest, some might say, and then invited another world war. They basically said, Woodrow Wilson, right? He said there's 14 points for this new world order. He said we're going to make the world safe for democracy. That's literally what he said. He said we need to make the world safe for democracy. Doesn't that say, are we just like tired? Are we just like pattern recognizers? And now we just hear the liberals and libertarians and whatever speak like that. And so we instantly just get a disgust reaction. Am I wrong? Am I incorrect in my reaction to this? Is this just purely reactionary? Because that's what Wilson said. We need to make the world safe for democracy, he said. But democracy is, it means the right of the people, but the people are retarded. In fact, some very fancy and smart historians, one Patrick Buchanan, he said what Woodrow Wilson said about the rights of every nation, because this is part of this. This is part of what. So World War I happens, right? And everything's a mess. And the winners basically said, the Allies basically said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is the rules. And they said it's all because it's for democracy and it's like we're going to keep the peace. And in some way you can appreciate that, right? Because here we are enjoying the decadence of said peace. That was challenged in World War II, but it continues today. So if you're still following me here, apologies for I'm just spewing show, but we're rocking and rolling. Making the world safe for democracy. Patrick Buchanan said, would write what Wilson said about the rights of every nation must be protected. He said that was a hatchet that would strike at the roots of Europe. It was the beginning of the end. To say that in fact, you know what's funny about that? Woodrow Wilson, basically, he made this big old speech, right? He's like, all right, guys, we're the winners. I'm paraphrasing, but he's sitting atop this mountain of bodies. And he's like, all right, y'all. All right, y'all. No more wars, no more conquest. That's over. We're going to make the world safe for democracy. And everyone's rights, everybody has their rights. They have the right to self-determination, he said. Everybody gets it. And then he washes his hands. He's like, man, that was a good speech. Whew. Man, I did such a good job. Dang, I did. Dang, I'm such a gangster. He goes home. He doesn't go home just yet. He starts getting a whole bunch of he says it right here. I have the quote for you. When I gave utterance to those words, because basically what started happening is this and that group of people started coming to the Allies and saying, okay, we want freedom. We want sovereignty. You're right, man. You're so right. You inspired me, Woodrow, us Arabs, us Jews, us all sorts of different people around the world. You inspired us to want to be sovereign in our own nation. And then they call it, some historians would call this the genie of nationalism was let out when Wilson did this speech. And suddenly all these nations started saying, hey, you're so right, man. Well, give it to us too. And so Wilson was then quoted. He's quoted as saying, when I gave utterance to those words, that all nations had a right to self-determination, I said that without knowing that nationalities existed, which are coming to us day after day. He's like, dang, I was just joking. I didn't mean it. The right of all peoples to self-determination was an axe that would strike at the roots of every Western empire. I mean, just kind of food for thought a little bit here. Sir Robert Filmer would also write another little fancy book I'm reading. Wasn't it Adam's desire for liberty, which was the cause of the fall of man? Somebody tell Robert Filmer about that meddling woman. But anyways, back to my little ramble stream. The Balfour Declaration, T.O. says, yeah. The genie of nationalism was let out. And when the world heard those words, and the atomization of all peoples began, the separation. Okay. Just kind of interesting thing to consider that nationalism isn't this, I don't know, it was just an idea. It's just another idea. It's just another idea. I'm not poo-pooing racial differences and whatever, all the things that we've talked about, but it's like interesting to consider that it was just another idea that swept through peoples. Anyways, I'm not saying it's not justified, but just an interesting thing I'm thinking about. You following so far? So, where was I? Reparations. Reparations. Think about that word. Reparations was started by Woodrow Wilson. And that kind of like evil, like, you could call it evil, but basically they said, Germany, you got to pay for everything. And then they started adding in a bunch of stuff. They started adding in, and you got to pay for the pension of all the soldiers, and you got to pay. It amounted to like 32 billion gold marks. Impossible to pay. Anyways, that's enough about the book in history. By the time Lloyd George returned to London, after all this talk of of the rights of self-determination, Woodrow Wilson goes home. Prime Minister of the UK, David Lloyd George, he goes back to London, and Ireland is in revolt. Uprisings have broken out in Egypt, Iraq, and India, but they're making the world safe for democracy. Anyways, all this to say what? Look, we're being manipulated to use words, call this person a Nazi, call this person an anti-Semite, when we don't really know what we're talking about, okay? I told you about this atrocity propaganda. I told you about this 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎, and they're calling him a war criminal, and you could say maybe out of my own ignorance, I'm not aware that his particular, you could prove it to me that he did some pretty horrible stuff. It wasn't just trying to defend himself, fighting in a military, Russians, Holodomor. I'm just a guy in Ukraine, and now I'm being told to take up arms. Because you got to consider how many men life was like that for them. I'm in this country, this war is breaking out, and I'm being told to pick up arms. I can't let this man, this brother, and this Ukrainian brother beside me die. I have to do my job right or else we die. How many people, that's what being a war criminal, as they call it, it was just that. You know what I mean? Atrocity propaganda. Do you think all 150,000 Waffen SS members stood around wrangling people to labor camps? Asks this one person on Twitter, which I thought was a poignant question. Do you think all 150K was? They fought in a war. Waffen SS, Gestapo were very different things. Was the SD Außenkommando? Was the SD Außenkommando Tunis rounding up Jews in Africa? Do you believe the entire war was spent just putting people into camps? Hollywood. They were fighting a war on multiple fronts. Fascinating stuff. At least I think so. What are y'all up to in the chat? Is my Russian friend in the chat understanding what I'm saying? Am I just totally off base? Do I not know what I'm talking about here? Rich L asks, what books? I'm reading Unnecessary War by Patrick Buchanan and Patriarcha on the Divine Rights of Kings by Robert Filmer. I'm being all fancy, but I'm letting it go in one ear out the other. Everything I read, everything I do, I'm letting it go in one ear out the other. And I never think that just because I read Patrick Buchanan say something about this person, I think that is what happened. I always leave a little bit of space going like, that may have happened. And it's an interesting thing to think about. Everything. So these books are nice and fancy. That's why I'm saying it like that. Oh, I'm acting all brand new, nice and fancy with these books because it's not that important. And a lot of what I'm talking about doesn't even come from the information I read, but my understanding of it due to all the stuff we talk about here on the show, this inner work we're talking about. Okay, Canada. That's we went around the topsy-turvy labyrinth there, but we got out on the other side. That's what happened in Canada. Those are my thoughts on the Nazis in Canada and conservatives in the world and us and blah, blah, blah. Nazis are not for fun, for sure. I know what you mean, alpha male in the chat. I don't deny the atrocities done by all sides. It's kind of what my point here. Another, I guess, side point too is like this moral superiority thing. We should always examine ourselves. Like, yeah, like Joel was saying. In fact, this ties into the network. I didn't do this. If you didn't see the Joel Friday TV episode on Tuesday today, you definitely want to check it out. How do you know if you're a good person or not? Or I forget the title, but yeah, How do you know if you're a good person? Really good episode. Yeah, this moral superiority stuff. We're not good. No one's good. We're not good. And so atrocities have happened on all sides. And so let's drop it. Can we just drop it? And let's talk about today and examine ourselves today, being evil today, calling people Nazis, anti-Semites, and being evil today. Let's worry about that. I don't know, but a lot of Germans and Russians were killed at their hand. It says, being in line till I rise. Oh, about Bolsheviks? The Bolsheviks gotta drink that milk fist right from the cow, man. Straight from the cow. I've never had milk straight from the cow. And that's such I talk all this smack, all this game about milk love. Look, I'm pro milk. I'm drinking milk till I die. And but I gotta try some of this. I mean, they say you can drink it straight from the cow. Have I just been? Are my pasteurized sensibilities too weak and too sensitive for that raw cow milk, or is it okay to start now? Anybody know? EJ Trill says, "I feel like being a Nazi." That's not the point here. That was not the point. I thought half of Ukraine marched with Hitler. Exactly, it did, or something like that. I heard. Shout out milk, obviously. Yeah, till I die, till the end, till the very end. Oh, I'm drinking milk. I guess that sounds like I'm going to just drink milk nonstop until I kill myself. But I mean, I'm drinking all the way up to death. But okay, I'll try some of this raw cow milk. I heard it comes out warm. No. Am I really a milk enjoyer if I'm not enjoying milk in all of its forms? But it comes out warm, y'all. You want a cold, tall, delicious glass of milk, and if you could pour it from the bag like you can in Canada, you could do the little trick where you pour it from really, really high, so the stream comes out and create a froth. And if you get a tall glass, you start pouring your milk, and you could do it with a gallon too, and you go from really high up, so the milk splashes, and you get the froth. That's a pro move, though. You don't want to start off with that. That's definitely a pro move. And you don't just do that day one, okay? You don't just day one start master pouring your milk, okay? Start slow, kiddos, all right? Start slow, okay? You start putting the glass down, okay? Then you could try picking it up and okay, but first master putting it down without pouring your milk too fast so that the cup spills over like a little kid. First master that part. And you'll be on your way. All right. So Canada, not so nice, not so trustworthy. They even got illegals coming up from over there. They even got the cartel. The cartel is up there. So we got Indian government assassinations. We got communist revolution in Canada. We got Indian government being accused of assassinating Indian Canadian citizens. And now we got the cartel. We have information that Mexican cartels are in Canada and are operating human smuggling operations. The RCMP answers questions about this. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Mounties. The ones on the horses. Okay, let's watch this video here. RCMP talking about
they're behind all of the human smuggling operations.
They're up there now. I used to joke about snow Mexicans, but we are in fact facing a literal onslaught of snow Mexicans.
It has been conveyed that the Mexican cartels are involved in human smuggling operations in Canada. And although we have information that the Mexican cartels are in Canada and are operating, we don't know if they're behind all of the human smuggling operations. We have investigations ongoing that are looking into these organized network, and because of the lucrative nature of it, like I said earlier, it's most probable that organized crime is behind some of those, organized smuggling operations. But the investigations will reveal that in due time.
The peoples in the Canada, they are starting to come our way. I think he's a French Canadian. That's the accent you're hearing there. So, you got the Mexican cartel up there. So now you will agree with me. It's time to invade. Just, it's too much. 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 2024, Trump, make him king, invade. Because here's the thing. You don't want to do it later. You don't want to do it later when you're going to have a Mero cartel war. You don't want to be embroiled in a future Mero cartel war when you have BRICS to the east, okay? And let's say Trump is in charge, so that might not even be an issue either. But you're going to want to do it now. Time is of the essence. They got a security deal, a peace deal with Israel and Saudi Arabia, okay? Another tripwire being formed up there. Okay? Time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Too much mess, homeless, crime, domestic problems. We got election, people believing in election shenanigans, and that may or may not be true. But at least the people believe it. You got to deal with that. Okay? You got criminal, Gotham City level villains running some of these cities. It's just too complicated. And now you're supposed to deal with the complicated cartel machinations on two fronts. It's time to win the war on both fronts by expanding the front all the way to to both coasts. And then turn inwards, build up industry, turn it up to 11, and then impose a new order, a new Christian order on the whole entire world. Okay, that was a joke. I guess absolute power corrupts absolutely. Huh? All right, y'all. That's Canada. What are y'all saying in the chat? What is up in the chat? In fact, I believe I have some super chats. Thank you for the super chats. Carver531 says, is Hassan the lost heir to the Romanov crown? He might be. I wouldn't put it past him. I believe he might be. He's the new Israel. He's the new Middle East. Bibi Netanyahu is talking about the new Middle East. Hassan is the new Middle East. And maybe also the lost heir to the Romanov crown. Spoiler alert with a super chat says, controversial opinion. Nations have the right to defend themselves from ethnic mafias. That's crazy. Why is that controversial? How is that controversial? Disavow. Nazis are a deep trauma in Russian history, so just for saying or positing or posting Hail Hitler or something like that, you can be avowed as extremist here and sentenced from 6 months up to lifetime prison. Wow. That's crazy. And I fully support it. Interesting. You made an interesting comment there, Alpha Male, in the chat the other day about young attitudes here in America about the Nazis, which I appreciated that. Yeah, I gotta. So I think some of this, although all this weird Nazi hate that we grew up with, I think is a little weird and maybe a little misunderstood. I think these young guys jumping on a Hitler love bandwagon maybe out of, I don't know. I'm not too sure myself. Just don't be bandwagoning. And then you'll be able to see the truth about all things, about the Nazis, about whatever it is. The French Canadians are a 10% minority who controls Canada. Look at the surnames: politics, police, RCMP, military. Trudeau is a French surname. Interesting take, Point Fire, who I believe is a Canadian brother in the chat. The French Canadians are... I do notice a lot of names like that. Even like names that are Anglo, like what, Stephen Harper. Wasn't he like a French Canadian? Didn't he have a different name? But yeah, Maxime Bernier, Justin Trudeau. There's a lot of French Canadians in politics, and they seem to be they seem to be the only ones who are fighting to keep Canada traditional, French, white in some cases. If Francophones and Anglophones sign up for the military, the Franco will get a basic English course upon completion of basic training. Oh, that's funny. Are the French not forced to speak English the way the English are forced to learn French in school? Because I went to school in Ontario, so I grew up with the Anglophones. But I spent a lot of time with the Francos. But I don't know about their schooling. Were you forced to learn English in school the way I was forced to learn French in school? Yo, anybody out there in the office, if you can hit me with some AC, that'd be nice. I don't know if it's already blowing or something. If you just tell me it's already blowing, that might psychologically help me here. And I just logged into the chat here on Stack, so if you guys were trying to talk to me, I just logged in. Thank you, sir. I'm feeling better already. The anchor baby's starting to sweat. Just a little bit. Okay, so shall we move on? Shall we move on yet? No, Rob Ford was an Anglophone. Rob Ford had to have been an Anglophone, man. That man, too much Canadian politics. Let's move on. Shout out Rob Ford, okay? Gangsta. I saw him at a rib fest once. Nice guy. Speaking of governments, though, and Ukraine and war and all these things, a little bit of a segue, but it's related. Ukraine, government shutdown in America. This looming government shutdown, they say. Congress is moving into crisis mode as time runs short to avoid a government shutdown. Did that first part make sense? With the Nazis in Canada and the Romanovs and everything I was talking about there? Let me know. Was that somewhat interesting? But we got this Congress in crisis mode. They're calling it a government shutdown. They say it's a government shutdown. What do we got here? We got some news. Congress prepares for funding talks as deadline looms.
I'm Lisa Mascaro. I'm the chief congressional correspondent for the Associated Press. We are days away from a possible federal government shutdown. Lawmakers are preparing to return to Washington for the first of what will be several days of potentially tense voting with an uncertain outcome. Speaker Kevin McCarthy is trying to get his Republican majority on board. He faces a very rebellious right flank that is pushing for steep spending cuts. The level of spending cuts Speaker McCarthy has been unable to deliver. There's a lot of resistance, not just from Democrats, but of course from his own rank and file Republicans. Hard right wants a level of spending that they say Speaker McCarthy agreed to back in January. But Speaker McCarthy cut a deal with President Joe Biden that has since become law that sets the spending levels slightly higher than what those Republicans agreed to back at the start of the year. They, however, are still fighting for that lower level of cuts. It's deep spending to programs and government services that Americans rely on. Many of the hard right Republicans say it would be no problem if the government shuts down. There's just days to go. A shutdown would happen if the Congress cannot pass its spending bills.
What is this reporting?
By Saturday, October 1st, Sunday, is the start of the new fiscal year, and that's when we would begin to see government closures. That said, even if the House is able to get its bills over the finish line, they still need to be reconciled with the Senate. And the Senate, which is controlled by Democrats,
Why are you so nervous? What's her name? This lady reporting?
has no interest in this deep level of spending cuts.
So they're saying it might happen. They might actually shut down. Now, I'm not one to say, I'll believe it when I see it. Thank you, Kohlberger Art with the super chat says, makes sense. Why does this sound like a special ed teacher addressing the class? Yeah, or a substitute teacher looking a little nervous or out of practice. It's okay. Just tell us the news. But anyways, they're saying it might shut down. And as this reporter explained, the saga a bit here, as she very expertly described the saga here, what's going on here is this atomization of Congress. It's quite fascinating, actually, because the politics is the Republicans who basically got some power in the House this past November. They have like 4 seats or something like that. 4 seats more. And so they have power, but the Republicans have to be united in decisions. Okay? Because should 5 Republicans dissent on a decision, their majority, which is, like I said, I believe 4 votes majority, should 5 Republicans dissent, they lose that majority. So they must be united in when they move. And so what's interesting here, though, what's fascinating, and just so you know, this shutdown is a way of exerting that power that I'm describing. It's a way of exerting that power of putting pressure on Congress, on the government. You know, we're going to shut down, right? You get it. And what's interesting here, what's fascinating is this atomization of Congress itself. And you know it in its latest form, which is this Freedom Caucus. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have it, because obviously the Freedom Caucus, which is basically what? Okay, because you got Congress, and you got the House of Representatives. You got all these representatives representing you. But within the same House, there's divisions in the same House, right? Because you got Republican, Democrat, okay? Senator, representative. But now there's even further incremental atomizations of that same system. Not only is it Republican, but within the Republicans, there is a battle. And you got the Freedom Caucus, which is comprised of members, I believe 15 of them, 15 different members of the House of Representatives. One of them, the Matt Gaetz. And they're basically sticking it to the Republicans. No more rhinos. You guys got to do some work. You guys got to actually function here, because it's all these promises. It's all this and that, but it's more money for Ukraine. It's all this talk, but it's still border problems, all this blah, blah, blah. So you got to appreciate that, right? You got to appreciate that. Obviously, when you have these different levers in the game of politics, different people get represented, and hopefully the hope is represented correctly. But at the same time, you got to consider that out of necessity, this is even happening. There is no uniting. There is no united Republican Party. There is no united people. There's no united America. Jesse Lee Peterson truly is correct about what he's saying. The government being a representation of us, really a direct mirror. It's just fascinating to consider the atomization of Congress itself is the division amongst us. Okay? And so you got the Freedom Caucus. Because what has to happen here, basically, if I can be brief, is the Republicans have to put forth like a proposal or whatever on spending. And they got to agree. Okay? The Republicans have to agree. and then it goes to the Senate or something, and it gets voted on, and the process continues. But this Freedom Caucus is what's holding it up. They're saying that's what this reporter lady we just watched, she that's who she called the far right element of the Republican. She's talking about the Freedom Caucus, who the Democrats and the media are going to call extreme and whatever. In some views, you could see it as extreme to fight against your own party and exert pressure. Pressure on my side, though, I appreciate it. So you got the Freedom Caucus, and they're holding it up because they're saying, you know what, we're not gonna let the process continue normally until we get what we want, which is border security. Border security being one of the main things here. And so, anyways, that's the story. I wanted to comment on how it's so interesting. The atomization of the Congress is the atomization of the country. But it's worth reporting on how you gotta. Here's just one part of what the Freedom Caucus was asking for and basically ready to shut down the government for. E-Verify. Let's consider this concept here for a second. Because you know that we're bleeding. We're bleeding at the southern border. Hemorrhaging. Except the hemorrhaging is like inwards. And it's causing internal bleeding. But anyways, we don't need to get lost in the analogies, right? You got this hemorrhaging at the southern border. Problem, crisis. Democrat mayors in liberal cities are saying it's a problem. It's problems, okay? People are aware of this. And what does the Freedom Caucus want? They want to ensure goes down before, or else we shutting it down? E-Verify. What is E-Verify? If I could be brief, E-Verify would make it so that it would make illegals working in American companies illegal. Because you would have to verify, blah, 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 okay? It would essentially make that illegal. You know how important that is? You know how important that is? Like when you really consider that concept for a second, because what does that mean? The fact that you would need it means American companies are hiring illegals. So what? What does that mean? That means there are people in this country incentivized, motivated, or at least enjoying the spoils of this illegal immigration. So that's already a problem. You got to cut that off. And then when you realize the gravity of it, you realize, wait, why wasn't this done yesterday? Why hasn't this been done yesterday? And you arrive to the same conclusion. They don't want to. Because this E-Verify was what the Freedom Caucus was basically fighting for. Not just E-Verify, a number of other things. But this is significant enough to talk about. And what it looks like now is the Republicans are basically going to just do something different. I believe it's a proposal from Mitch McConnell. So not the Freedom Caucus. They're saying, look, we're just going to do it like this. We're going to do it this way, and we're going to take the Ukraine funding out. And so now you got Republicans cheering this end of the Ukraine funding. Like, right on. This is crazy, right, guys? We've been funding this Ukraine war. We've been funding the rebuilding of their country. They're saying now, which is why is being now widely reported, that taxpayers are paying salaries of every first responder in Ukraine.
Fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders, all 57,000 of them.
You see this?
That includes the team that trains this rescue dog named Joy to comb through the wreckage of Russian strikes looking for survivors.
Okay, give them all the money. To protect Joy, the dog? Yeah, give them all the money.
And the US also funds the divers, who we saw.
So while that's all happening, you might think, well, that's great. That's great. But anyways, now I don't need to harp on this. You get the point. Why hasn't this been done yesterday? And on just one point here, there's other points on this whole Freedom Caucus thing fight. But E-Verify, think about that. E-Verify to stop illegals from working in America. Like how much would that deal with this crisis, which people are saying is a crisis, yet nothing's changing? That would probably deal with a whole lot of that because they can't come here and work and then send their money back, which is what they're here to do. A bunch of single, or not always single, but military-age fighting males, as they call them, coming here. And what do? They send their money back, y'all. That's what they do. So, E-Verify, just that concept on its own. Because it's like, look, E-Verify. Why hasn't this been done yesterday? A long time ago. Why? When you're seeing this, look. New York, of over 1 billion. Is that the number I'm reading here? 100 million, 1 billion on just hotels over the next 3 years. You got people protesting. Okay. Sanctuary city. Right? I mean, these are the scenes we're seeing. Like, this is what we're seeing now. It's not a debate anymore. It's definitely an emergency. It's beyond an emergency. It's something to deal with a long time ago. You seen this? Like it has to be clear now, right? It has to be clear now, right? I see your calls coming in. I'll get to you. 888-775-3773. But it has to be clear now, right? This is not an accident. This is not an accident. Not a mistake. Not a mystery. It's definitely not a mystery either. According to this person, the Texas National Guard is assisting and cutting the razor wire they initially put up. I heard the Governor Greg Abbott declared an emergency, was able to use the National Guard, and I'm supposed to understand that they're just going back on that. You seen this? Today, Biden administration cuts razor wire in Texas meant to stop illegal crossings. Abbott said, see you in court. Texas isn't removing the razor wire. But Abbott says the Biden administration came in Wednesday and started cutting the wire. So maybe it wasn't the National Guard, maybe it wasn't Abbott, but according to this report, it was the Biden administration. But why? It has to be clear now, right? Now it's clear, right? They literally put up the wire to stop them, and the Biden administration, according to Abbott, came in and cut it. It has to be clear now, right? This is not a mistake. I got Lucas, California, on the air. Thank you, sir. I believe I have Lucas out of California.
Hey, what's up, Nick?
What's up, Lucas? How you been, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well, I guess. In this world, this crazy border stuff, and black people. I realize white people think that they're invisible, and black people think that they're invincible. And not even just black people, just every other person except white people.
They think they're invisible, you say?
White people think they're invisible, and then black people think they're invincible. Like they can just
or they want to be invisible.
I'm like, well, see, I kind of stand out because of my character, and I look white, but I'm not really white. I'm Hispanic and Latino. But
that's true. You do have a little bit of it's a little bit there.
Yeah,
There's a swarthiness in your hair a little bit. I've met Lucas, folks.
Exactly,
he's come to church.
Yeah, I know. I haven't been to church. I've been working, trying to get out of freaking California, to be honest. But
right on, man. Good thing you're working. You were saying?
But yeah. So I've been realizing this, that it's honestly, I understand why racism, that word, and what it means. like to the people that believe in it and stuff. I get why like they call it and stuff, but it's really just the statistics and facts, you know. I don't know how it is in all over the other states and country and stuff, but in California, in Los Angeles, in San Diego, San Francisco, go anywhere in California, it is out of control with how, first of all, how quiet like white people are, and also how like invincible these, first of all, mainly black people, but yeah, Mexicans kind of keep to their own, to be honest. Latinos and stuff keep to their own. But it's mainly the black people. They're like, dude, they're like destroying our country. Not all.
No, I know what you mean, man. Well, it's crazy too because, I mean, I try and be a little fair here and all that, but everything indicates to me that to be true, what you're saying. And I'll have people call my show say like that's just completely not true. They'll say it's completely even. They'll say it's completely equal, like totally equal. And I don't think it is. That doesn't seem like that.
Yeah, and now we're letting more of like people from the southern border. These people are from like Africa and like and all other countries coming across, and it's like these black people are going to just come in and be like, oh, I'm black, so now I like. Trust, I'm telling you, there's a mental thing that's going on where people are taking advantage. It's kind of like, look, I'm guilty of it. Like during the COVID, I'm not going to lie. I lied that I had COVID just to get 2 weeks off and also get paid.
But I'm following what you're saying, though. I'm following what you're saying now, I think. Go on.
But they're going to go along with it, and they're going to be, and the Democrats are going to support it, and everything will be like, you're racist or da-da-da. So it's like, what do we do, man? That's my main question. What do we?
That's an interesting thing, because what did you just say?
No, like what can we do? Because I know we can talk about it, and I see big people talking about it, like Steven Crowder or whatever, you know, like even Alex Jones, whatever. We just talk about it, but it seems like we have really no control. So what the heck? So I see, that's why I'm saying, like, I understand the word racism and stuff, why people believe in it so hard, because it's like, dude, you guys are literally discriminating because I'm white. Like,
but that's like, the trick. That's the trick. How that's the trick to get you going. And I remember what you were saying that got me going. You see how that thinking literally makes you like dumber. Yeah. And you're saying it yourself. There's a what's it called? Like a disservice almost, just by spreading that. You're making people dumber. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's what's it called? Yeah. It's like you're inflicting like a retardation on people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like none of these people that are coming in, they speak English. We have so many people. See, I'm a cook. I work in the kitchen, and literally, like I work in a bunch of kitchens, but like every time I'm just like, I know this guy's illegal. Like, how does somebody hire somebody? How does somebody hire somebody and they honestly say, I don't speak any English, in Spanish probably even say it. Yeah. And how you hire them? I don't even get that.
Well, then you look at them. Well, then you then you talk to the manager and he's like a whitewashed Mexican guy who speaks Spanish, and can be the bridge. You know what I mean? And it feels bad. Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, you can work here. No, I worked with literal illegals as well, and it's crazy. No, yeah, they're openly telling me, yeah, I'm sending money back home. Like, I was supposed to be here for only a little while. I've been here for so long now, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I've even like I don't know. I talk to them, and I have to learn Spanish. I have to learn Spanish in order to work there, which I already know Spanish growing up. Right. But it still puzzles me how they ask me like, oh, well, do you know Spanish? It's like, I'm in America, aren't I? Like, why do I need to know Spanish? But I get it, and that's why it's easy for me to work in restaurants. But it's kind of sad that You know, like you have to know Spanish to be, especially a cook. You should know English. Being a cook, like,
well, I remember.
Come out good.
Yeah, I remember when I got to LA, I was applying for jobs, and just scroll down Indeed for jobs in LA, and I was shocked at how many of them said speaking English and Spanish, both of them, was a requirement. Yeah, and I was thinking, I'm coming. I had just arrived pretty much from Canada. I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, Americans. Imagine Americans living here in this country. That's just what I saw. It was a requirement. You speak both Spanish and English. They wouldn't even consider you if you didn't speak both.
Yeah, I worked at this one Korean barbecue one time, and they asked me if I know Chinese. Like, it was one of the requirements, Chinese and English, and I said, yeah, I speak Chinese. This was years ago. This was just for a waiter job, and I said, yeah, English and Chinese, and I got the job, and like. But I was just a waiter. I'm pretty sure it never really had to.
That's
I never
awesome.
Needed it. Yeah.
I love lying to get jobs. That's a joke.
Yeah, of course.
But that's how you get your first. That's how you get your first one.
Yeah.
That's how
exactly.
everyone gets. Right.
But I have
right. Everyone.
I was just watching. Yeah, I was just watching this video of this girl scamming Target, getting arrested and stuff, and I just thought of something. I think I know why. Like, you know, there's a lot of black people that don't really know how to like spell and read because of their name. Their name. They, you know, whenever you go to school, you learn enunciation and like, oh, you put these letters together and this is how it's pronounced. But their name is like Shazame or like Laquanda. And then so they learn other words and they're like, wait, no, that's not how you pronounce it. And then it's like, because my name is pronounced this way. It's not. That's just a joke.
Oh, I got you. I think I'm following you. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like these. I'm just saying, like, everybody is so in their race right now, and it's just like I understand why people are like thinking about racism, because it's like pushing me to be like defensive of like all those other races, you know, like I'm just like, I don't want to be around you. I don't. It's like I don't hate you.
Yeah.
It's just you're a lawsuit or something, you know. You're a case for.
No, I know what you mean. You're reminding me of this video where it was this black man who got offended that he was walking down an alley and this seemingly white woman, I guess, saw him and then did an instant U-turn. And so he takes out his phone. This is when the recording starts. And he's running after her. And she now sees this man who she first saw and then turned around, is now running after her. So she's screaming, running away. He finally corners her where she can't run anymore. And he's basically offended that she would even get scared at him. And she was trying to tell her black people are not scary, so you can stop all your being scared and running away. But it's completely, totally just no self-awareness that he just ran after this woman, a stranger, and ran after her to tell her that black people aren't scary and you shouldn't be acting this way.
Yeah, exactly. You just reminded me of that, like the old video of the black guy in the park. I think it was in New York or something, with the girl and her dog, and he's like, oh, and starts recording her, and all she wanted to do for him to get away from her.
Right.
If I was, it doesn't matter what color. If some girl was acting like that, I would just get away from her. I would get away from her. I wouldn't record her and then try to like.
You're talking about that Central Park Karen lady?
Yeah.
Right. If you believe like it was racist world and they call cops on black people and get them killed, then leave. This woman's telling you to leave. Run away. She's about to kill you with the cops if you're so scared. Yeah. But yeah, you're so right. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a perfect point, dude. Yeah. Exactly. All right, man. Well, I just wanted to tell you that, man. Like,
well,
that we need to figure out, like, shoot, Jesse got to keep on talking. Jesse got to literally reach out to the black people, and especially in Los Angeles, because, gosh dang, man, I'm always on edge whenever I'm taking the subway or bus, and people are doing drugs. And oh yeah, that's another thing. There's like black people doing drugs, regularly doing heroin off the floor. Oh, sorry, I don't want to talk about. I was kidding, but you know what I mean. Doing the stuff
gotcha.
on the bus, and nobody's saying anything. And it's like I know it's because they're black, because I'll hit my vape. I have like a vape, okay? I don't hit it all the time. I'm not one of those addicts, okay?
No one said anything.
My vape low key. I'll hit my vape low key on the bus just to get, just a little nicotine, and they'll keep their eye on me. They'll catch me. I'll do it low key, but then I see black people just out in the open just doing it. Nobody's stopping them. I'm just like, what the heck, man?
Why are you staring, man? I'm one of y'all. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm being one of y'all right now. Chill. No, that's what I would think. I'd be like, hey, I'm smoking too. Chill.
Yeah, no. Whenever I see a black person like smoking something in there, I smoke my vape freely, because I just want them to say something to me, and then I'll be like, oh, what about this guy? I'm not scared. Scared. The only thing I'm scared of black people about is that like they have a racism gun. They have a real gun too, but they have a racism gun as well, where they could just shoot it at you and then boom, targets on you. Everybody.
That's why you don't make yourself a target. You don't walk around with a chip on your shoulder with a gripe or anything, because that's how to avoid what you're talking about. That's the reason you don't walk around with a chip on your shoulder or a gripe about black people or whatever. You have an understanding. That way, should you ever be confronted with a situation, you know exactly how to act and how to respond to protect yourself. Because like you were describing, there's a two-tier justice system and all that, if we can be brief here. That's why you don't walk, or that's why you forgive, etc. So you don't get set up for those situations.
Oh, no, I love black people. That's why I talk about them so much, and I give them their space, like 4 or 5 cities away of space. But,
I understand.
Yeah.
Right on, Lucas. Well, thank you for your call. Anything else you want to say before we move the wheels here?
Well, hell yeah, dude. You're great, man. Joel Friday. Well, I put it in a list, okay? Right now it's Joel Friday.
Oh, we got a tier list?
And then, Joel Friday, Nick, JLP, Hassan, and Hake.
What?
But Hassan used to be second, but then, I don't know, like, Hassan, he kind of don't know that much.
What? Bogus tier list.
No, but you're second. I don't know. I like Joel
bogus.
Joel's kind of, I feel like he's always going off the cuff, I feel like he doesn't have anything
he's killing
written or planned in his head. He's just going off the cuff, so it's kind of dope.
I appreciate that too.
All right, man.
All right, Lucas, call me again, sir.
Same.
Bye. All right, y'all. What's your tier list? I don't know. That's not my tier list. Hey, what's up, Jasper? Renee, Esoteric, David, Matthew, Emperor. How y'all doing? You enjoying the show so far? I appreciate all that information. Alpha Male in the chat, I believe, is our Russian friend. I love black people too, if I love anyone. We need a If I Love Anyone shirt. I think I'd buy one of those. Hake Report, thehakereport.com. Joel Friday TV, every Tuesday. Nice. Great info, Alpha Male. Thank you. Just for your information about imprisoning and judgment in Russia, we have not such strict cops and law enforcements, so you can go outside and scream, Hail Hitler or whatever. A little bit of free speech action. Right on. You got to love free speech. Did I thank Cold Burger Art for the super chat? Thank you, sir. Says, makes sense. What's up, Rumble? Let me say hi to y'all. I agree, especially when you look deep into it. Thank you, being a light until I rise. Is Joel on Rumble? I don't think Joel's on Rumble. Someone's got to teach him how to Rumble. How to restream or something. Warm milk is like drinking hot chocolate? Really? I might have to try it again. Oh, you got to strain it. Okay, we got milk. People talk about milk. Okay, I'm very interested. Let's drop everything. I don't care about anything. Milk is important. I don't know, but a lot of German and Russians were killed at their hands. I don't care about that. What are you saying about milk? You got to try it one day, man. It's worth it. You got to strain it. Okay. Warm milk is like drinking hot chocolate. Obviously, that must have been like little boy taste buds. You know, when you try something as a boy and you're like, ew. But then you grow up. Okay? Grow up. Then you grow up and you're like, wow, this once funky, rotting, halfway rotting, funky, bubbly, sour, spicy thing that causes pain and chaos in the body, I now suddenly love it. I now suddenly like it and love it. Could that be a little bit? Could it be at all because we learned to love our hell? Our once pure, simple taste buds, French fries, chicken nuggies, averse to strange and odd and funky smells that may be dangerous. But then somewhere along the way, we're traumatized. And then we learn to love our hell. And we call it acquired tastes. We call it an acquired taste. I'm talking like as if I don't like these funky, sour, spicy things I'm talking about. I too have an acquired taste. I too have acquired a taste for my hell. That's why we like the things that hurt us. Spicy, irritating, poisonous. Tomatoes apparently are of the nightshade family, if you heard the Hake Report today. Poisonous, but yet we love it. We love what hurts us because it gives us life. And we've learned to love our hell. A little too deep on food? Maybe I'm making no sense. I hope I'm not, because I love all these things. I'm talking about fermented things. We didn't need to go that hard on food, right? We didn't need to go that hard on food. I heard milk is the white supremacy drink of choice. Is that true? Sour beer. That's a true thing. That's a real thing, Renee. That's not a fake thing. It's kind of good. They got black Russians too, but they don't do ish for you, and they smell terrible. Coffee, olives, caviar, whiskey, cigars, all disgusting when young, and then suddenly delicious. I don't know about you guys. Every cigar I've ever tried, going in, it's like, okay, this is fancy. You smell it. You're like, this is like nothing I've ever smelled before. It doesn't smell like a dirty old cigarette. This is all interesting. But then you smoke it, right? And you have the smoke in your mouth, and you don't inhale because we're being healthy, and it's only for adults, okay? It's only for adults. But then you smoke it, and it's like, okay, this tastes like every other thing I've ever smoked. It just tastes like smoke. I don't know what the big deal is. It tastes all the same to me. Now I get it. It's a whole experience. But I don't know. But so true. Acquired taste, they say. Emperor of Cats doesn't want me to read your stuff. Kvass. Yeah. You know what? I've actually know what that is. Fermented cereal-based, kind of like a kombucha, right? Like a Russian kombucha. The Mexicans have tepache, a fermented, also a sweetened beverage made with a sort of sugar or sugary, vegetable or crop or whatever. In this case, the rind of pineapples and I think cactus. Tepache. No, I think it's pineapple. Kombucha, kvass. Fermented cereal for the Russians. Kombucha for, I guess, hippie Americans. Who did kombucha first? Kombucha. Is that an American drink? Kombucha, tepache, kvass. Interesting. I don't know how to pronounce that. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Interesting stuff. Just kicking backs and chilling with you guys the last few minutes of the show. I guess I could get into something else, but I'm chilling right now. I like talking to you guys right now here, having fun. The Rind of Pineapples would be a good band name. It's a white hippie drink. Okay, thank you, Matthew. Yeah, we're chilling right now. Because there's like this Israel peace treaty, and there's this rapper, Mario Judah, who's suddenly, I don't know if it's sudden, but he's now a total Christian. He's saying the world's going to end, and it's interesting. There's interesting characters in the world now. It feels like just the general conversation has shifted. People out here talking about rappers talking about Christ and peace treaties. Did everybody suddenly become like an online right? Like, what's going on here? So there's some interesting stuff with the peace deal and all that, but I'll leave that for tomorrow. You know, there's an interesting thing about randomness. A little thing about randomness that this someone posted about that I found quite interesting. The conservatives are duking it out online over marriage and women. Just feel like I don't have the time to get into any of it. I've always snuck honey into my kids' milk. Why is that, Matthew? I've probably smoked 2 cigars a day for the past 15 years. For real? Yeah, Mario Judah is like, he's saying the world's going to end. He's getting everybody to baptize themselves. Or he wants everybody to get baptized. Or else you're not going to make it. Or else you're not going to make it to heaven, he says. Mario Judah, you guys probably don't know who I'm talking about. Some of you might know. But interesting characters and interesting intersections of media and the world are talking about things in interesting ways. He says, don't worry. He says, the world is about to end in a few days. It's the end of the world because the United Nations is about to sign that peace and security treaty with Israel. Search up the United Nations SDG Summit live on YouTube. It's a live countdown. Okay, Mario Judah. I will search that on YouTube. Oh, there is actually a live video. Oh.
Who to go to pick up their trash. They know who to call if there's a fire.
Is this the live countdown to the end of the world?
Who to go if they're having problems with the public infrastructure, the public works. But what if you feel like your neighborhood is too hot? What if you're concerned about the number of people who are getting sick or dying from heat? Who's the problem owner? We're really proud here in the city of Phoenix to have the first publicly funded local government office focused on extreme heat.
Everybody in the chat here of this live video is saying Jesus is God. Jesus Christ is King. Is everybody in this chat a whole bunch of Mario Judah fans? Jesus took all the sins and prayed for them with his blood. Whoa. That's interesting. And this United Nations live chat, everybody's speaking the name of Christ. You seeing this? What the? I don't know, y'all. We're gonna have to get into this tomorrow. We're gonna have to make sense of all this tomorrow. Mario Judah and Israel. What's the connection? What's going on here? We're gonna make sense of that tomorrow. We got more American Anchor Baby tomorrow at noon, as we do. So don't miss that. What, tomorrow, Wednesday? Wow, Wednesday already. That means Wow Hassan's tomorrow. You don't want to miss Wow Hassan. Great show. Walking on Water Hassan. Okay, might find it difficult to find it, but that's @ Walking on Water Hassan, HASSAN on YouTube. YouTube.com/ I hope that's, yeah, right on. Hake with the beautiful links in the chat. Let me pin that right away. Let me pin the link is in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. YouTube.com/ Walking on Water Hassan. You don't want to miss it. He's already got a title up for tomorrow's episode. Should be interesting from what I could tell. Says Wow Hassan Confederate. It's got a skull and a snazzy skull and a Confederate flag. Wait, is Jewish, Arab, Confederate, Hassan? I'm excited. I'm tuning in. Hope you are as well. Should be a nice show. What will he wear next? Tune in tomorrow to find out on the next episode of Walking on. Nice, y'all. We're going to wind it down. Wind it down here. You know what? I'll show you this cool video about randomness. How about that? in the last few minutes here. Ashley St. Clair here on YouTube shared this video about randomness and chaos. And it's of another individual on TikTok who goes by the name 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. And he's talking about how computers cannot generate random numbers. And I found this fascinating. And it's in reference to what he's describing in this video is the method with which one tech company known as Cloudflare and how they handle security at their firm. And the way they do it is they generate random numbers by measuring values generated by real-life objects, such as lava lamps in this example. Why? Because a computer can't do it. And if you can figure out computers, you can figure out these so-called random numbers. I found it interesting. Maybe you will too.
What's going on here is kind of mind-blowing, or at least I find it mind-blowing, because it kind of gets into how the universe works. First of all, this rack of 100 lava lamps is not just an art project. That rack of lava lamps is key to how internet security works. In fact, it can be found at Cloudflare, the IT web security company. The key to any kind of computer security is random numbers. You need to be able to generate a random value that only the user has that they can use to log in. If a hacker could guess that value, then it's no good. So in order to generate truly random values, they have cameras pointed at this wall of lava lamps taking pictures of it, and the exact position of the drops of lava determine the values. And immediately you're going to say, well, why go through all of this trouble? Why not just have a computer generate a random number and use that? And that's the mind-blowing part. Computers can't generate random numbers. It's not possible. A computer, after all, is just a machine that
AI
may not be gears like this, but it's just a series of switches that flip on and off. So how would you ever get this to give you a random result? I mean, just think about it. If I asked you to rig, say, a lamp so that it flips on at the same time every day, even if you have no engineering knowledge, you could probably work out a way to do it. You could just tie a string to the hands of a clock or something like that. But if I asked you to design a lamp that comes on and off totally at random, and I mean truly at random, so that nobody could guess the pattern, you'd probably never figure it out unless you were very clever. And then you would take the on and off switch to your lamp and hook it to, say, a branch outside your window, so that the blowing of the wind makes it shake the branch and flip the switch, and that's what makes it come on and off. In other words,
you following so far? On the description, on the difference between this generated random of computers and the randomness found in nature and just our environment.
Borrow randomness and chaos from the universe and import it into the system. That is what Cloudflare is doing here. The computers cannot generate randomness the way heat and wax and light and a million other properties of the environment can. This has been an engineering problem that we've been trying to solve for as long as computers have existed.
Yeah, take that one in. As long as computers have existed, people have been trying to figure this one out about generating true random numbers.
Because there's constantly times when you need it to generate a seemingly random result. Some systems will grab a number from atmospheric noise or radioactive decay, or will measure the internal temperature of the system out to.
You're gonna want to sit through. You're gonna want to sit through this one. Pay attention to the last part too. It's gonna tie it all in. It's pretty interesting. Okay, random numbers. Trying to solve it. Why would you need random numbers? Well, he's describing how some computers do it.
To generate a seemingly random result. Some systems will grab a number from atmospheric noise or radioactive decay, or will measure the internal temperature of the system out to some number of decimal places and pick a digit within that. Now, when you need a computer to do something random for some sort of low stakes reason, for example, if you put your playlist on shuffle, they use what's called a pseudo-random number generator, where it generates numbers that appear to be random, but if you knew how it worked, you could guess it, but who cares? And it's the same thing with a lot of primitive video games. People got to where they could anticipate which Pokemon were going to occur because they figured out that the random distribution wasn't actually random. But if you're playing in a video game that is a little bit higher stakes and you have things that are dictated by randomness that you need to be completely fair, for example, if there was money on the line, a computer can't shuffle a deck of cards. It has to have a virtual way of doing that. And if it...
That's why card games are better in real life. Because you never get a true shuffle, says JS Urban Adventures, who seems to know a bit about this. No such thing as true random.
It's generating a truly random number. It has to grab some value from the outside world. In some cases, it may grab the exact precise time down to some millisecond when you hit a key and then run that through an algorithm to mix up the numbers. Or it may record the exact sequence of buttons that you've pressed since the entire time you've had the game installed and then use that number like some digit from the middle of that number. I said at the beginning that this kind of gets into the nature of how the human...
This is the part that's interesting, okay? This part gets really interesting about being predictable, predictability, and about variables. How do the computers... I'll let him explain it, okay?
Installed and then use that number like some digit from the middle. That this kind of gets into the nature of how the universe works, and here's why. If you had a powerful enough computer, couldn't you quantify and predict the exact position of all of the globs of wax in these things? Aren't all of these variables quantifiable if you knew enough, if you knew the exact amount of heat and wax and the exact composition of each bottle? To the point that even if it was affected by the body heat of an employee walking past, couldn't the activity of that employee be predicted if you truly knew every variable, including, say, the exact firing of the neurons in their brain? Could you not predict exactly what's going to happen if you had truly infinite knowledge of every particle? And if so, then how does free will exist? What's going on?
So smart scientists going all the way around the rosy. Wait, what? Going all the way around to arrive to what JLP has been saying for a while now. Yeah, because you got to imagine that's the only thing in the way of the prediction is the knowledge of all the variables. And if that's all, if that's what reality is, at least the reality we experience, a series of variables, switches, we call them choices, decisions. We call them events and things that happen in the world. Random events. The random events of life, we call it. We call it random. But is it really? Is it really? A little bit of food for thought there. We'll end the show off with that. Appreciate. So are you saying we should all send lava lamps to the bond office? We currently have no security issues. So, no, not needed. Might be nice, though. Some people here might like a lava lamp. This dude works for the government. The end. Hey, good enough for me. All right, y'all. That's the show. Appreciate you being with me today. We'll be back tomorrow for more American Anchor Baby at 12. So drop that like, subscribe, share. Drop a comment if you didn't like what you heard, what you saw. Call me tomorrow, 888-775-3773. It'll be the same number. Again, you know, I like signing off 2-3 times for some reason. Y'all, that's the show. What can I say? That's the show. What are y'all saying? All right, y'all. See you tomorrow. More American Anchor Baby tomorrow, Wednesday. Peace. Take care. Oh, wait, let me do a disappearing act. Houdini style. Take care.